Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Idaho House Republicans podcast. Thank you for joining us. As you know, this podcast is to help you understand a little bit more about the representatives that you have sent to the State House. And today we have the distinct privilege to have Representative Dustin Manwaring with us. He's in Legislative District 29. He's in Seat A. He's in his third term, although he did serve another term, right, in between 2016 and 2018. So, welcome to the Idaho House Republicans podcast, Dustin Manwaring.
Yeah, I'm glad I had time today to get up here.
I'm really glad you did too. A little bit of background. He's from Blackfoot, Pocatello native, and he graduated from Blackfoot High School, University of Utah undergrad. He went to Drake University Law School. He owns a company called Milestone Law PLLC, which you are a partner of, obviously, which does business, estate planning, land use work. And most importantly, you, like I, have a wife named Whitney, and
right.
You, like I, have two children. So it's kind of crazy, right?
That is crazy. I like it.
So anyway, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Vic. This is going to be good.
So quickly, tell us about Legislative District 29. Where is it, and what do people care about?
29 is pretty much follows the Pocatello city limits. We have some of Pocatello that's not in our district, but it's pretty much Pocatello city proper in Bannock County. So we're in the southeastern part of the state.
And what do your constituents care about mostly?
Well, when I'm out campaigning and even during legislative session, I think the issues that constantly rise to the top are the health issues and the education issues. And we have Idaho State University in Pocatello. So also, anything to do with higher ed, we're also really paying close attention to.
So remind people what committees on which you serve.
Yeah. I currently serve on our Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee. So JFAC is where I spend most of my time.
Lots of fun there.
Yeah, lots of fun this year and every year. And then I also serve on resources.
And just Idahoans should know that when you accept a role on the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, it is truly a sacrifice. You are there at 7 a.m., maybe 8 a.m. if you're lucky, and you're there almost every day of the session. So thank you for the sacrificial work you're doing on that. It's a tough job, and you're seeing every budget. And honestly, it's the only constitutional duty we actually have as a legislature is to pass the budgets.
Yeah, it's the one thing that we do have to do when we're here in session to be able to get out of here. And, JFAC is a lot of work. And I interesting, just kind of background of the years I've been here. I think I've heard numerous times, probably every year, how the budget surplus years are the easier years. Well, I'm telling you, as a member of JFAC this year, this has been one of the harder years that I've served, just trying to get through this session with the budget situation that we've been in.
Well, I'd really love to spend a lot of time on JFAC, but you have a special affinity, you have a special lane in the legislature that I want to talk a little bit about, and you've done a good job in it. And you're like Mr. Digital Dude, and I really appreciate that. In January 2022, you brought House Bill 465, which was the Digital Assets Act, and that was kind of the first time we saw you step out as kind of, this is something I really want to understand because this is where the future is going. So talk about your Digital Asset Act and what you were trying to do there. And then I want to talk about some things that are happening this session.
Yeah. So going back to that time period, we started working that the year before. I mean, it took us a couple of years to actually get that legislation passed. But my motivation coming into it was part of my background and experience. So in my law practice, I do deal with a lot of technology clients, and being one of the younger legislators, I feel like I'm mid-age now or mid-career, but I think technology issues are something that I've paid attention to, and there hasn't been a lot of attention on those type of policy issues in the legislature. So coming in here, it was one of those pieces or one of those areas of policy where I just found myself very interested and not a lot of, I couldn't see a lot of people working in that lane, frankly, as you call it, a lane. And so I saw an opportunity to be
a voice,
helpful and a voice, right, and to make change there. So that was the idea: is like, how do we start moving forward at some of the financial technologies that I saw out there in the world and that I was even using that just had not even come and been addressed in state code, right? And this is and the reason to address it is these things affect our lives. They affect, affect everything from a divorce case. If you own a digital asset, or you have
Mm-hmm.
you own Bitcoin or anything like that,
There you
right? I
go.
mean, there's a lot of Idahoans that are doing business in these things, but nothing defined in Idaho code. So from a probate standpoint, from a family law standpoint, I mean,
Business standpoint.
business,
Yep.
exactly. So
Corporate assets, business assets,
so
right?
I saw the place to start was to get the Digital Asset Act passed, and what we really did was, for the first time, put in statute in state law in Idaho to define a lot of those terms around digital assets.
And so just to remind people, the the purpose of that bill was to define the legal status of digital assets, classified digital assets, as personal property, and also the special right of purchase, possession, and control of digital assets. So it really put in code that there is an asset called a digital asset, just like you own a building or just like you own whatever it is, and it was never defined in code. And so thank you for that
Yeah.
work. It was
Yeah.
important. Okay, now we go fast forward 4 more years, and here you are in another digital realm, and that is the realm of stablecoin. You are running a House Bill of 586, and it says this legislation establishes the Financial Accountability Stablecoin Transaction Act, which is the FAST Act. Tell us about the FAST Act.
Yeah,
and what it does.
Yeah, so the FAST Act is a way for us to enable the state to have an opt-in system, and I say opt-in because it truly is, to allow vendors of the state. So if you had if you're a vendor that has a contract with the state of Idaho,
Right.
you would be able to opt in to being paid out under your contract in stablecoin. So what this legislation would do is create a list of stablecoin that the state would be authorized to use
Okay.
to take state treasury to funds and to purchase stablecoin and to pay those vendors in that method if they chose to be paid in that
Again,
method.
opt-in.
Opt-in.
Right. Okay. So now let's peel the onion a little bit.
Yep.
Stablecoin. What does that mean? What is a stablecoin?
Well, it's a digital payment. It's a digital representation of a dollar, but it's not a central bank digital currency. These are non-central bank digital currencies. So it's not a currency that's controlled by the government. So it's a digital representation. It is always pegged to the value of a dollar. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. It stays dollar for dollar is what it's pegged to as a virtual representation of that dollar. So you can buy it with dollars, you can exchange it back for dollars instantaneously. And there are, several companies that have stable coins. There's some big guys. Circle is one of those.
Mm-hmm.
USD1 with the World Liberty Financial is another one of those.
Tether has one. PayPal has one. Yeah, there's several. There's a number.
There's a lot
them.
of them, right?
Yeah.
And so there's many people, including thousands and thousands of Idahoans, that have digital wallets that have stablecoin in them.
Mm-hmm.
That they're using to either transfer back to buy other cryptocurrency, or they're holding in their, instead of having it in a savings account, they may just be holding it in a wallet. But it's a fast, efficient, effective way to pay without the traditional fees and delay of the traditional financing system.
Yeah, we're going to go into some of the pros and some of the criticisms you hear. We'll talk about that, but so stablecoin, though, unlike a Bitcoin, it's backed by real assets. Talk about how stablecoin is backed up.
Yeah, and so stablecoin always has to have a reserve currency associated or attached to it. So you have to have dollars that are held in reserve. They're not out there leveraged against. So they have to be held for as many of those stablecoins in circulation. You're going to have that many dollars held in reserve in an account, right? And
it could be cash, it could be treasuries, it could be money markets, but the bottom line why it's called a stablecoin is it is tethered to the value of the dollar.
Correct.
It's a dollar. That's how it works.
Right. And in order to keep it stable, you have to have those cash reserves and prove those cash reserves are there, that they're sitting there. And so some of these companies prove it, on a quarterly yearly basis. Some are starting to do it more real time to give that additional consumer confidence and business to business confidence. But to truly have one that works, you really have to know and understand and be able to see publicly on that blockchain and in their attestations that they publish that they have cash to back it up.
And so this is a lot different than a Bitcoin where you may see it, it had recent highs of over like 150,000. Now it's around 66,000. You wouldn't see that volatility because it's pegged to the US dollar. That's the point. It's a payment mechanism.
Correct.
Okay. So now the reason why we're allowed to think about stablecoins is because we have federal frameworks that are now in place. One thing was called the Genius Act, right? And there's a thing called the Clarity Act. The Genius Act provided the regulatory framework in effect for the digital issuance of these coins. The Clarity Act does the regulatory oversight through the Security and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Commission.
Yep.
So the federal government has created this framework. Now stablecoin is crawling into this framework, and you have the FAST Act, which is for Idaho, correct?
Right.
Okay, so tell people about what you want to do relative to Idaho, a little bit more detail than you discussed before.
Yeah. So Genius passed last summer. That is a federal act that did pass. And in the Genius Act, they authorized the federal framework for approving stablecoin at the federal level. So, but at the same time, what they did is authorize the states, if they chose to come up with their own state level framework to regulate stablecoin. Now, Idaho, we have done nothing on that front to set up that framework. And so when I saw Genius going through and then ultimately passing, one approach that Idaho could have taken is let's set up our own state level framework for stablecoin to approve those stablecoins that are going to do business in Idaho. They could basically be regulated and approved through our own state system.
Okay.
Or we don't have to do that. We can just say that we'll wait for any of those federally approved ones, and that's what we could do also. Or there's a kind of the option C is other states may do that, and we could participate in their state.
And other states have.
Yeah, but all of this has to be Genius compliant. And so my approach was, we are behind, honestly, in Idaho on this front, and just having the willpower, the understanding, the education and support to build our own framework. We could do that, but with the timing that we had under Genius, I think we had until
I think it kicks in December 2026, the end of the year.
Yeah, you basically had this year to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And so my approach was, let's not try to build that whole framework. Let's just participate. Let's authorize the ability for Idaho, if there is a Genius approved stablecoin federally or by another state, that we could create that list of what those are, and then have an opt-in system for some state payments with vendors just to get this going and have people understand what it is, and to get Idaho being able to use this technology and this federally approved framework to pay digitally with a dollar,
right?
Without overcomplicating it. And so that's the premise and how I got to using what happened with Genius to introduce the FAST Act in Idaho. And in particular, the FAST Act has two layers in it. It has the layer of using, any of those federally approved stable coins, but also I pulled in that state level. So I specifically pulled in the ability for a public purpose stable coin, like a Wyoming
has done this. Yep.
Wyoming Frontier Token is what theirs is called.
Yep.
You also have one in North Dakota called the Rough Rider that they're, I think, getting ready to release. And so you'll see some states release their own state level tokens that they're using for a public purpose, right? So any purchases of those tokens, some of that money that's earned will be going back into education or other things in those states. And
other states have kind of gotten on this. There was, I think, a vote just in the last couple of days that was unanimous in another state house. I think it was the House. I think it was the House side.
Senate in West Virginia.
Side. Yeah, it was unanimous.
Yep.
So that's a strong indication of where things are going.
Yeah, there's several states working on it. I think Alabama is working on it, and like you said, West Virginia just passed the Senate unanimously. And we all have little bit different versions to fit our state and how we're doing it. But I really like Idaho's approach because we haven't overcomplicated it.
Right.
We've peeled it down and made it as simple, hopefully as simple as it can be. Even though this is a confusing topic, and if you don't understand anything about digital assets and anything associated with crypto or wallet and digital forms of payment, and it's all foreign.
Yeah.
But we've peeled it back to try to make it the easiest way.
No, I mean, it's very smart to use nationally recognized coins.
Right.
Start there, and then if Idaho wants to issue its own coin, once now it understands how it works,
Yep.
so be it, right?
Right.
So let's talk about some of the advantages, because I think some of the advantages are very significant. First of all, talk about fees. Why would a stable coin potentially save the state a lot of fees?
Yeah, and I don't have specific numbers, but that's something we're digging into, and we will start to work to get specific numbers on potential savings. But it's also depending on how much payment and how much stablecoin would be in and out of the state treasurer's office and paid by the state controller here. But I do know that Idaho typically pays a decent amount in fees and payments and bank fees in particular.
Cutting checks, wires,
all the traditional
that.
payments, the ACH fees.
Cutting a check is expensive. So
yeah, and these are big payments. And so
right.
I think it's both the potential savings on what we're paying in fees, but also the time cost and the time value of money, and the delay in payments that could take a week or more. And with stablecoin, you could push that payment out in minutes.
And yeah, so talk about that element, because obviously when you do a wire, a lot of times you have to hit the wire by 1 p.m. here so that New York can send it out by 3 o'clock there.
Right.
And then banks are closed on Saturday, banks are closed on Sunday. If you send a check in the mail, the US mail system is slower than it used to be. Talk about what that means in terms of being able to get money instantaneously that the state of Idaho might be owed.
Yeah, well, I think
the float, as they call it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be kind of phase 2 of money coming into the state. So I think that's not a part of this bill, but I think it would be the next iteration would be making sure that you're able to use stablecoin, taking it into the treasury. So if someone wants to make a tax payment or they're owing the state of Idaho money, they can pay it this way. For that reason too, it's going to save fees on that end. The state's going to get paid faster, right, coming in. But but paying a vendor out, same thing. The vendor's going to receive their money faster. The state's not paying that fee. Hopefully, more of that money can actually not get cut off the top and get paid to the vendor. The really neat thing about this is the use of the blockchain and smart contract technology that could be coupled with these digital payments with stablecoin, because that is going to save the state a lot of money. The more that we can start pulling in what we call smart contracts, and those are contracts that are built to execute when those conditions happen, right? So it's not a person that's reviewing a contract and deciding and then manually figuring out if these conditions are met and initiating the payment. It literally is all built in. It's built in as computer code on the blockchain. It can't be changed once that contract's agreed to.
Right.
It's there. And if the conditions happen, the payment gets triggered automatically.
On a Friday night or Saturday or Sunday or Monday, whatever.
Whenever.
And in seconds, with no delay.
No delay, the payment's transferred. The efficiency to the state and the efficiency to the person receiving that payment are huge. I mean, someone that would want to do business with Idaho or want that contract versus some other place where they don't get to do business that way, they're always going to choose more efficiency, less fees, less friction, and to know they're going to get paid when they've done their job.
Now, Representative Manwaring, could this help the average Idahoan, like a farmer who has a contract or the lumber mill or anything like that? How would that help potentially in the long run someone who actually does business in Idaho?
Well, I think if you are a contractor or a subcontractor, I mean, I give the example of like our Idaho Transportation Department. They do a lot of contracting with with general contractors and road and bridge work and things
Right.
like that. If you're a
Yep.
contractor or a subcontractor, whether it's that agency or another one, and you have a smart contract built in for your work and you've opted in to be paid in stablecoin and that happens, you're going to get paid instantly
Right.
when you complete your work. So I think it has the potential to affect a lot of Idaho businesses and a lot
Right.
of Idahoans if moving forward. And when we will get there, it's just a matter of how fast and how soon.
Right, and the state prefers obviously in-state vendors. So
Right.
obviously to the degree it pays them more quickly, that's just good for the economy. Gets the money into the economy right away, and it takes out any ambiguity, and you don't have to wait, and it's easier to manage the business because cash flow expectations. There's a whole bunch of different upsides.
And I think it can be good for our Idaho-based financial institutions, our Idaho banks, our Idaho credit
Yeah,
unions.
talk about that because a lot of people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh, I'm worried. What's this going to do to the credit unions?"
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I think the worry is that it takes them out of the picture. Like if they're not making fees on an ACH payment or they're not making traditional bank fees, I think they're worried about that. And I get that. That's a fair concern. My concern is always going to be what is best for the consumer, what is best for the state of Idaho, and at the same time, though, I truly think this is what is best. Um, what would be the best for consumers to if you're doing banking is to be able that your bank offers the ability to have a digital wallet so that if you want to get paid in this, if you want to get paid in a stable coin and there's a way for you to easily transfer that in and out of your bank account
Right.
and to do business at that financial institution.
Right.
So the ones that see this and know that this technology is out there and being used by many more people today, and the ones that offer that to customers are going to be well ahead of the others.
Here's a crazy thing. I've read some research that they believe that stablecoin will represent uh, $3 trillion of total assets by 2030.
Yeah.
Just to give people a sense, there's only $7 trillion of T-bills right now. Um,
Yeah.
so the advantage is a couple of things. First of all, it creates U.S. dollar dominance, which is a good thing for the United States. Now I'm talking about national,
Yeah.
and we'd be a part of this, of course, because we'd be transacting in these. The other thing that it does is it provides certainty for the U.S. government that there's a certain amount of those treasuries, which is one of the assets that backs a stablecoin. There'll be a certain level of that demand at all times, allowing the U.S. government to play the short end of the yield curve, which reduces our cost of debt. The other thing too is the increased demand from this should lower interest rates across the country as well. And I read a study that they believe that a national adoption over time will reduce the interest rate curve by about 40 basis points. So there's benefits outside of the state as well as the nation adopts the stable coin.
Yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity here for the nation and we can't control all that. That's kind of one of those macro factors. That's one of those benefits that as you get the volume and the buy-in, that's going to be one of the things that truly happens. But I think it will really preserve. It is one thing that will really preserve the dollar um, as frankly the global reserve currency. As you get people
Right.
that want to buy into U.S. based attached stablecoin, right? They want stablecoins that is attached to U.S. dollars,
Correct.
and if we get more countries around the world buying into that, then I think those benefits that you just talked about are the real effect that is going to come.
So let's say you're now on the other side and you're dealing with some concerns. So one question um, that I've been asked, and maybe you can bring this to light, is that Idaho's FAST Act, which you're bringing, would enable an opt-in system to use stablecoins for state payments, right? So if you were the state vendor opting in, if you were that vendor, why should you be comfortable that the stablecoin is actually a good thing? So now you're a vendor, not a legislator. You're now wearing the hat of a vendor. Talk about that.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, one, I think you're going to have you have to have confidence in anybody you do business with, any financial institution, anywhere you put your money. You've got to have confidence in that. So I think the first level of confidence is the dollar backed stablecoin, that it's backed dollar for dollar, but also that you can transfer it in and out of dollars instantaneously. It's not locked up anywhere. But I think you also have to have, confidence in that attestation process. So these companies, whether if it's a company offering stablecoin, you should be able to see that they have that. But I think the most, or that they have those reserves. But for most, the average person, they may not be, in the weeds on that. They just want to know that if they get paid, they're going to get their money, right?
Right.
So most of this is going to be having confidence and watching the next guy do it and that it works.
Mhm.
So I think honestly, this is going to be something where you're going to once one or two do it and
Right.
they have no
It's that
issues.
aha moment.
It's an
Like,
aha
I just
moment
got
that
paid
like there's no
Friday night.
problems, right?
No banks. Got
Right.
it immediately. Now I can invest it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to see
Balanced
it. You got
cash
to
flow.
see it working, and then you'll have confidence.
So there's always this concern about the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, and um, how do you allay people's concerns about stablecoin relative to perceptions of that issue?
Well, this is the best way to keep a central bank digital currency from happening. Not that I think it will happen, but this is all built outside of a central bank. This technology is literally built by private companies that are trying to build that confidence with the consumer, with the market, like any other company does. And you don't have to do business in it. You can choose to, and that's why I don't think Idaho should ever force payments to be in a specific stable coin, for
Right.
example, right? This is totally, but we should enable, if there's technology and a way to have more efficient, faster payments, that people, can do business that way. That's out there in the private market. Why shouldn't government enable people to do business with government the same way?
Right.
So this is the best way, in my opinion, to make sure we keep the technology working for the market and working between consumers and individuals and government, and showing that we can do it that way. But this is exactly the opposite of centralizing anything with a central bank.
Right.
It's completely between the individual and how they pay or get paid.
One of the other things that I think that people, it's unfortunate we even have to talk about this, but people have been debanked. Corporations have been debanked. The Trump organization was debanked. We had the treasurer of Utah came in a couple of years and talked about how one of their companies had a bunch of auto loans for their fleet and that the bank debanked them because they were in the gun business. So debanking is real, and this is one thing nationally that stablecoin can definitely make sure that that does not happen.
Yeah, and I talked to somebody just a couple of days ago here that lives in Boise, owns businesses here. He's building other companies, and he was debanked. He was from California. He had worked and sold a company there, and he went through that. There was a time period not that long ago where anybody that was doing business in virtual currency at all, that were holding even stable coins at the time and transferring those between traditional banks back and forth, just got cut off.
Right.
They literally had he had payroll set up that he was paying to be transferred, and he got caught up. He couldn't even make payroll. He was telling me a story about having to go to the bank and just get stacks of cash to pay his
Oh
employees.
my
And they're like, "Is
goodness
everything
gracious.
okay?" He's like, he's like, "Yeah, we're sound financially, but I just got cut off. My bank literally cut me off because I was doing business with a Coinbase or
Mm,
with somebody else that the big banks didn't like." Right?
mm.
We've come a long way since then, where now people aren't getting cut off, but we still have a long way to go for adoption and for,
But it has happened, and people's memories are not short when it comes to being debanked.
that's right.
Another advantage of this. So maybe as the final point is that even though you feel like Idaho's been behind a little bit, in a sense, we're right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
There's states that are just adopting the stablecoin, just dealing with the FAST Act. The the Clarity Act and the Genius Act are pretty new,
Right.
so we can get on it. What is your message to Idahoans on why the FAST Act is necessary and why it should be passed this legislature and why we need to get on to the reality that of stablecoin, that it's here to stay and we should be an early adopter?
Well, I think, Idaho, we oftentimes see ourselves, kind of waiting back and kind of being, and we're a conservative state. We always have been, even in legislation. But as far as technology is concerned, conservative and adopting that. But I think the efficiency, again, that it can provide our own Idahoans in those state level payments is frankly a game changer. I don't think there's been anything that can probably potentially save the state money in payments and in our state contracts than this technology that I've ever seen. You can eliminate programs, you can eliminate and reduce contracts, but like as far as just the way we do business, the way the state of Idaho operates with our treasurer's office, with our controller's office, the way we enter into contracts and make payments, this is a game changer for the ability of Idaho to be more efficient and to do business with people. And I think that will encourage more people to be here. It goes in the bucket of people that say, Idaho's paying attention. They're paying attention to what's happening in the economy and the market and the efficiencies. And, we've been one of the fastest growing states for a long time.
Exactly.
Let's act like it.
Yep.
Let's be a leader. Let's be a leader in technology. Let's be a leader in encouraging people to do business with the state, but do it right. Like we're not forcing this.
Right.
We're
Opt in.
We're enabling it. We're enabling things to work in Idaho, and that's how we should do it. We should enable business to work the way that it works everywhere else in the world.
Yep.
To work right here and to be an example of that.
Well, the beautiful thing is Idaho tends to lead, right? We have the most tax cuts per capita in the entire country in the last 5 years, right? We started the Women's Fairness in Sports Act.
That's right.
We started the Medicaid, where you have to show a work requirement, which is now in the big, beautiful bill, right? Idaho started the tax on no tax on overtime through Russ Fulcher.
Yeah.
I mean, we are, we are a leader. And so stablecoin is coming. That's your point.
Yep.
We need to, we need to adopt it and get in early, see how it works. And again, opt in. And thank you for running this FAST Act. And, God bless you.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the front end, if we can truly lead, then we can help set the tone and show other states how to do it right.
Yeah, maybe we'll start the gem coin sometime. Because we're a gem state, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been blessed to have Representative Dustin Manwaring join us. He represents Legislative District 29 in Seat A, and he's in his third term, although he did serve an additional term as well. So he's served 4 total terms. And then before we sign off, as we always say, God bless the great state of Idaho. And again, thank you, Representative Dustin Manwaring.
Thank you, Vic. It's been fun.
Sunrise on the Snake River plain, red, white, and blue in the window pane. Work boots dusty from yesterday, but we're back at it the Idaho way.